This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Dogfish Head Craft Brewery. The Grateful Dead and Dogfish Head have gotten the band back together with the release of Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale, a light-bodied pale ale brewed with sustainable kernels of grains, granola, and heaps of good karma for a refreshing brew that's music to your taste buds. Available nationwide, visit dogfish.com to find Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale in your neck of the woods. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery is located in Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Good morning, Dick Morris. I want to put out the call-in number, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. Okay, that's it. Let's go.
You know, the media is not understanding what the breakthrough that Trump and Putin had in the summit in Alaska.
Well, they understand. They just don't want to.
Well, it's very important that we get it and that we understand how significant that breakthrough is. Because the media is trying to portray this as being some kind of defeat for Trump. And it wasn't. It was an enormous victory. First of all, Trump set this up by increasing arms shipments to Ukraine right before the summit. And the United States basically and Europe have been basically flooding Ukraine with weapons over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
And they've received them already before this?
And they're using them on the battlefield.
Okay.
And all of the military reports before the summit said that the Russians are gaining on the battlefield, they're pushing the Ukrainians back. And in fact, that was true until about 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, the Ukrainians recaptured the land the Russians had won in the last 2 weeks and threatened to increase their holdings. Basically, the Ukrainians had run out of shells, out of ammo.
Ukrainians or Russians?
Ukrainians.
Right.
And Trump and Europe really reopened the floodgates to give them incredible access to weaponry.
Just to keep them in the game.
Well, but more importantly, to set up the summit and make clear to Putin that his days were limited in Ukraine.
Right.
And it was a demonstration, really, for Putin. And it worked beautifully. It scared the hell out of the Russians.
Diplomacy through strength.
Yep. And scared the hell out of the Russians. And it just became very clear that the United States and Europe would really continue to aid Ukraine enormously. So the first thing they did was to change the battlefield in Ukraine from one in which the Russians were winning and the Ukraine seemed on its last legs to one in which Ukraine is now winning. And in the last 2 weeks, there's been clear evidence of Ukrainian supremacy on the battlefield.
Supremacy?
Well,
what? Or
at the moment. The second thing that happened before the summit is that U.S. threatened Russia with secondary sanctions. And that means that we won't just raise tariffs on Russian oil. We'll raise tariffs on any other country that buys Russian oil.
Right, that's got to hurt them.
Which is incredible. It means this unbelievable shutdown of their biggest revenue source. And Peter Navarro put it well when he explained recently that Navarro says India is really a laundromat for Russian oil. Here's the deal, he wrote. We start with India, the highest tariffs in the world. Big non-tariff barriers, and we run close to $50 billion trade deficit with them. Consumers get hurt.
Workers'
business
right.
Then India uses American dollars from our consumers to buy Russian oil. And then the Russians use the money from India, from America, to build their war machine, go out and buy more weapons, drones, and bombs to kill Ukrainians.
Unbelievable.
So people need to understand India is a very, very bad actor in all this. And the president was smart enough to see this incredible chessboard. So we've got 25% reciprocal tariffs to address the trade deficit problem with India. Then on top of that, another 25% to address this national security problem associated with India being a money laundromat for the Kremlin.
Money laundromat.
So
wow.
India, which is, of course, by population, the largest country in the world now, having passed China, is facing a 50% tariff on its products. And India survives by exports. And that's just a tremendous blow. And the Indians folded in the face of that. And it became very clear that the secondary sanctions policy that Trump was threatening would work big time. And Putin got that message. And then the outcome of all this was an enormous breakthrough that was announced today. And it was featured on the news on this station, other places, a few minutes ago. President Trump's special envoy, Stephen Witkoff, said that the Russian President Putin agreed at Friday's Alaska summit to allow the U.S. and European allies to grant Ukraine security protection similar to NATO's collective defense mandate as part of an impending deal to end the war. We were able to win the following concession, Witkoff said, that the United States could offer Article 5-like protection. Article 5 is the basis of NATO. It says if you attack one of us, you're attacking all of us. That we could offer Article 5-like protection, which is one of the real reasons why Ukraine wants to be in NATO, Witkoff said. The special envoy added that it was the first time we ever heard the Russians agree to that.
Wow.
And that's the real breakthrough that happened in Alaska. And the details now of the land swap is stuff that's going to be agreed at the new trilateral meeting. But that's window dressing.
That's going to help Zelensky actually think about
the real
the
point
deal,
is that
the
now
NATO thing.
Ukraine is secure.
Right.
And what they wanted to do is to get into NATO. And Russia basically said, if you let them into NATO, that's a trigger for even wider war, maybe even nuclear.
You mean Putin said that about the NATO thing?
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Right.
Really?
And everybody backed off it. Now Russia has basically agreed to giving Ukraine Article 5 guarantees for its security.
Oh, yeah. Putin said that last year. He said if they get into NATO. He didn't just say that in the last couple of weeks, did he?
Right.
Right. He said it a while back. Yeah, I remember that.
But the key point here is that Trump has laid the basis here for a tremendous deal to end this war by essentially giving Ukraine the security guarantee that it needs.
So listen, so I can't really talk about this without talking about getting off the plane, shaking Putin's hand, and the B-2 bomber and the F-35 go right over their heads as they walk on that red carpet. It was so amazing. What a visual. And Trump kind of clapped. Like when they came overhead, he did a clap, and Putin looked at him like, wow, man, that was cool. That's exactly what I got out of it. Mm-hmm. Putin was like, wow, that's cool, man. You the man. You the man.
How hard it is for the pilots to sink that?
Well, I looked into this because I went to the Indy 5.
Son, you said, died.
What's that?
Dean Martin's son, you said.
Well, no, he got killed. He was a pilot, but that's a different story. But it was so difficult to time that. They have to zigzag, because I used to go to the Indy 500, and at the national anthem, F-14s back then used to fly over, then F-15. And I remember asking my military friend, how do they do that? Because these things have to do at least 300 miles an hour. They can't slow down and stay far away and then juice it. They have to stay far away, and they almost have to zigzag a little to keep their distance so they don't fly over before time. So it was just perfectly done. It was beautiful. That's all. It was no big deal for them, I'm sure, but just the idea of just the visual that Trump said, okay, here's what we're going to, and he broke a ton of protocol. This protocol, I was listening to Charlie Kirk, And Charlie Kirk was saying that there's like a booklet for protocol when you meet with a foreign guy, and there's certain flags going on the right and the left and up and down. And he says this was completely a break of total protocol from where they met, how they walked onto the tarmac, the whole thing. So Trump's just like the coolest dude.
Well,
thanks, boss, if you listen. Thanks, buddy.
It's very cool what the way Trump did this. And he laid the basis by increasing arms exports to Ukraine enormously.
I know, that was great.
And shutting India down, and India agreeing to secondary sanctions. And then the Russians caved and said that they would approve Article 5 guarantees for Ukraine.
Just the strategy was amazing.
Now, they haven't worked out the real estate yet. But we're really at the same stage we were when the Camp David Accords started, when Sadat and Israel were negotiating the land and the territorial swap.
That wasn't Nixon. Who was that?
That was Ford.
Ford, right.
Yeah, and Kissinger, really. And they were negotiating that swap. But now security guarantee has been given. That's crucial and means Zelensky can afford to be accommodating on the issue of land.
And the other thing is, it's amazing, just the idea that Putin flew across Asia to get there, and, Trump obviously flew across the United States. Pretty amazing, Putin to fly all the way over, land on our land at a military base, so he wants to do something. If he was thinking, he wouldn't have spent 2 days travel. So it's pretty amazing, the whole thing.
Now, let me talk a little bit about the redistricting issue, which has become the major political issue at the moment. Let's bear in mind that after slavery was ended, the South said to the North, hey guys, wait a minute, you have a majority in the House of Representatives, an enormous majority, and you need to give us seats there by letting us count slaves. And the Democrat and the Republicans said, count slaves, they're not allowed to vote. And the South said, if you don't do that, we're leaving the Union. And that became a threat that led to civil war. And the deal that was hatched was that the Democrats agreed, and the Republicans agreed, that illegal immigrants could be counted in the census. Even though they couldn't vote and they weren't here legally, they could be counted in the census. And Stephen Miller, the Republican expert who I love, said the Democrats have stolen 20 to 30 House seats by counting illegal immigrants in the census. Just think about that for a sec. You have the Democrats talking about, Republicans can't change their congressional maps. To get there, anti-immigration advocates took one unofficial and unreliable estimate for the total number of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S., 16.8 million, and divided it by the number of people each congressman represents. And then they realized that this is giving the Democrats a 22-seat edge in the House of Representatives, because they're basically being permitted to count non-voters in the census.
This doesn't make a lot of sense now.
And Homeland Security estimates that there are about 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States. Miller said Republicans were justified in redrawing their political maps to pick up seats because the Democrats have also drawn congressional districts to their advantage. He said even though the Republicans won a landslide in the 2024 popular House vote, in other words, how people voted, Democrat or Republican, the Democrats have so thoroughly rigged the gerrymander and manipulated their districts, the Republicans only gained a 4-seat majority, even though they won the popular vote in 2024 for Congress by really a landslide. So this is the context of this reapportionment battle. Wow. Now, when we come back, we'll talk about the big solution, which is that we are actually reducing the number of illegal immigrants in the United States.
Beautiful.
Which will affect the census, which will affect the House delegations, which will give Trump the political supremacy he needs.
When we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. So this issue of reapportionment in the House has to be framed against the number of illegal aliens, immigrants, who live in the U.S., who are counted in the census. They can't vote, but they're counted in the census, constitutionally required, and then that is reflected in the House delegates and in the electoral votes. Electoral votes for president, I guess you know, are the House members plus the Senate members from each state. So the smaller states have 2 senators and 1 congressman, so they have 3 electoral votes. And that's how the system works. So basically the counting of illegal immigrants in the census gives the Democrats a huge advantage of more than 20 seats in the House and ultimately in electoral votes. But the key to that is the large foreign population in the U.S. And Christine O.M. and Trump are succeeding in eliminating that piece by piece. And that's enormously significant. An analysis by the Census Bureau says that the number of immigrants in the United States, foreign-born people, has declined by 2.2% under Trump.
2.2 million.
2.2 million, I'm sorry.
In the total foreign-born or immigrant population, legal and illegal.
In the first 6 months. We preliminarily estimate that the number of legal immigrants has fallen by 1.6 million in just a little bit over 6 months.
That's amazing.
Likely due to the increased out-migration response in stepped-up enforcement. After growing at a spectacular pace over the previous 4 years, the foreign-born population has now dropped dramatically in just 6 months, driven primarily by illegal immigrants headed home. An analysis of CBS data shows that the total foreign-born population of all ages, both in and out of the labor force, declined by an unprecedented 2.2 million from January to June, the largest 6-month decline ever seen in the same year. Non-citizens accounted for almost all of the fall-off. The naturalized U.S. citizen population has actually increased since January. So, to those who say that Trump is anti-immigrant, the number of legal immigrants has increased. The number of illegal immigrants has tanked.
So he's anti-illegal
right.
immigrant.
And
knock on the front door. You come right in.
And we preliminarily estimate that the illegal immigrant population declined by an astonishing 1.6 million, 10% from 14.2 million from January to July of this year. Unbelievable.
10% decrease.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Because how many million do we have in illegal?
About 14.
Wow.
And we've lost 2 of them in the last 6 months.
2 million? No. Oh, yeah.
2 million of them.
2 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just the most incredible change. And the bulk of this is voluntary relocation because of the way the U.S. is handling it.
Well, I don't want to get arrested, so I'm leaving. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, not just that. I also want $1,000.
And $1,000 too. I was never happy with that, but I get it. You can.
Christine O.M. said that more than 1 million illegal immigrants have self-deported since Trump took office. In less than 200 days, 1.6 million illegal immigrants have left the United States population. That's massive.
Hey, we were just in Miami. It felt like they were all there.
This means safer streets, taxpayer fund savings, pressure off of schools and hospital services, and better job opportunities for Americans. Thank you, POTUS Trump.
It's unbelievable.
In less than 200 days, 1.6 million illegal immigrants have left the United States. And she said that Trump tapped her to do that, and that no longer will we tolerate people being in our country illegally, and they need to go home. They've gotten the message. Noemi noted that as illegal immigrants left, 2.5 million Americans found jobs over the last 6 to 7 months. So in the last 6 months, there's been this enormous change of 2 million illegal immigrants leaving and 2 million American-born citizens taking jobs, both because of these policies.
And she's also going to deal with the sanctuary cities.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Noem said in her first 200 days as secretary, Department of Homeland Security has launched an international multi-million-dollar ad campaign warning illegal immigrants to leave now, because if they don't, we will arrest them and deport them. The release noted that the Trump administration ended the use of the CPB One app, saying the app helped more than 1 million illegal immigrants to illegally enter the U.S. The release noted that illegal immigrants who leave on their own can get $1,000 and a free flight to their native country, and the ability to return legally if they proceed legally. The rapid decline in illegal immigrant population is being felt nationwide, from reduced strain on public services to a resurgence in local job markets. The release was accompanied by a chart saying the illegal immigrant population of the U.S. had risen from 10 million in 21 to 16 million when Trump took office, and now it's down to 14 million. And that's all you really need to know about what the Trump administration has done.
She said that I think these numbers show exactly the genius of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
what he's doing.
Exactly.
Oh,
and the growth in employment of Americans and the decrease in the number of illegal immigrants is extraordinary, and it's a fundamental change in the country, and it's having such a huge impact, and particularly in reapportionment of House seats. So we have to put the Texas decision to try to jam additional House members in from the Republican Party, put that in context. We've so changed the population numbers that, of course, we have to redraw the lines.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and they're not supposed to do it except every 10 years. But if we wait 5 more years for the 10 years to run, we will have millions of Americans who will be underrepresented in Congress, and illegal immigrants who will have left, who will be represented in Congress.
Well, and plus the Democrats used the loophole of the Constitution there with the slaves, and counting them in a census. So they used that as well as they just, I guess they could.
So the media is focused on whether the courts will allow Trump to exclude non-citizens from the census. And this is very important, but it's only temporary because we are in the process of removing these illegal immigrants.
Right.
And that will change the census, that will change representation in Congress, and that will change electoral votes in the country to give us a Republican majority.
And then you got the sanctuary cities that Bondi is to cut USA. Attorney General Pam Bondi will revoke federal funding from California if Democrat Gavin Newsom refuses to end his state sanctuary policy for illegal aliens. Bondi shared a letter to Newsom in which she made the warning clear. Dear Governor Newsom, this is Bondi's love letter to him, I think. Governor Newsom, the United States has a long history of cooperation with state and local law enforcement agencies, including for immigration enforcement, she wrote. Such cooperation is vital to enforce federal law and protect national security. The hammer is being laid down. She said Congress has codified that states and local governments have a duty to work with federal immigration enforcement efforts. For too long, so-called sanctuary jurisdiction policies have undermined this necessity, cooperation, and obstructed federal immigration enforcement. These policies give aliens cover to perpetrate crimes in our communities and evade the immigration consequences that federal law requires. Under President Trump's leadership, full cooperation by state and local governments in immigration enforcement efforts is a top priority. Bondi said President Trump directed her, along with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, to identify sanctuary jurisdictions and notify them of violations of federal law. She also said the president ordered agencies to review their authority to add immigration-related conditions to grants and contracts to combat sanctuary policies. As contemplated by the executive order, designation as a sanctuary jurisdiction may result in additional consequences and further agency actions as permitted by law. Earlier this year, Bondi ordered a pause on federal funds for so-called sanctuary cities. She also directed the Justice Department to investigate jurisdictions impeding law enforcement and to prosecute when necessary. Homeland Security. Go on.
We did that.
Yeah.
So
you took my story.
So this is a major change in the dynamic here because we're actually reducing the population of illegal immigrants. We're closing down sanctuary cities. We're penalizing sanctuary cities with the loss of other federal funds. And as a result, the illegal immigrants are leaving the U.S., and the reapportionment of the districts will follow.
Beautiful. Once again, the genius of Donald Trump. When we get back, we'll talk about it.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
All right, Dick, we got Gary from Queens.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Hey, Dick. I'm real good. I wanted to mention, I think the whole
call will be recorded.
I wanted to mention, I think the whole Ukraine thing was a setup and planned by Biden to divert attention from Viktor Shokin and from all the corruption that the Biden administration has done. And it's amazing because it was put into motion by saying a small incursion is fine. And as a result, hundreds of thousands of lives were lost. And it shows what I believe is the MO of the Democrat, which is communism. You can do whatever you want. People's lives don't matter. Anything in order to protect their power.
Yeah, you're right. It is amazing, the casualties in Ukraine. The Russians have lost over 1 million men in the Ukraine, over 100,000 dead, and 900,000 wounded so badly they can't resume the fight. And that is just absolutely incredible. Let's go to...
what do we got here? Sandra, Richard Bayshore.
Okay. Well, we'll continue with that.
Yeah.
So, Doug, in the meantime, Trump is doing a great deal with drugs and Mexico in the U.S. Let's hear
Mexico is handing over 26 top cartel leaders to the United States this week in a deal with the Trump administration. The cartel figures were scheduled to fly to U.S. on Tuesday. Today is the latest example of Trump's administration's historic efforts to dismantle cartels and foreign terrorist organizations. Bondi told Fox News, that's what she told him, these 26 men have all played a role in bringing violence and drugs to American shores. Under this Department of Justice, they will face severe consequences for their crimes against this country. We are grateful to President Sheinbaum and the Mexican government for their collaboration in this matter. Abigail Gonzalez Valencia, a leader of the Los Quinas cartel, which is aligned with the notorious Jalisco New Generation, another cartel, CJNG, and Robert Salazar, who was accused of participating in the 2008 killing of Los Angeles sheriff deputy. They're among some of those being handed over to the U.S. Mexico's Attorney General Office and Security Ministry confirms the men were being handed over, saying the deal was made after the U.S. Justice Department said it wouldn't seek the death penalty for any of the men. The deal comes amid the Trump administration's focus on border security and attempt to crack down on Mexican cartels that send drugs across the border. President Trump's top priority is protecting the homeland, which is why he took the bold steps to designate several cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. There you go. The Deputy White House Press Secretary Anna Kelly said. Anna Kelly.
So while that's going on in Latin America, Trump is also moving to take over the Washington, D.C. police force.
Right. President Trump placed D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department, MPD, under federal control, deploying roughly 800 National Guard troops to help reestablish law and order and public safety. The operational specifics of what the troops will do in the city, where they will be posted and how long they will remain, are still unclear. He also has control of MPD, which is the Metropolitan Police Department, for 30 days unless he secures congressional approval. This is Trump talking. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. I mean, he's got Judge Jeanine also, right? He's got her there. Mm-hmm. Trump's deployment of the National Guard is the latest example of how the president has used the military to advance domestic policy priorities. The U.S. military responds quickly to executive directives. For that reason, it is preferred institution for a president who presents himself as tough on crime, undocumented immigrant, drugs, woke culture, and other perceived domestic enemies. But in recent months, that has put the military at the center of a series of partisan political issues, traditionally where its leaders in the past have least wanted to be.
Yep. And there's been a lot of talk by the left about how safe D.C. is and that the takeover by Trump is unnecessary.
Yeah, okay. So Trump said Monday he's putting Washington, D.C.'s police department under federal control and deploying the National Guard to patrol streets. He was met with predictable criticism, of course. Democratic Mayor Muriel Bowser claimed that violent crime hit its lowest level in more than 3 decades last year. But how sure is she of those numbers? Just 2 weeks ago, Police Commander Michael Pullum was suspended for allegedly altering crime statistics to make it appear violent crime has fallen dramatically. I don't think so. In Washington, D.C., police union is accusing the entire department of deliberately falsifying crime data. When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or a captain that will show up on the scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense, Fraternal Order of Police Chairman said. He calls the district's crime reports preposterous, and even the official numbers show Washington has the 3rd highest gun homicide rate among the U.S. cities, with a population of over 500,000. Washington, D.C. residents certainly feel under siege from crime, and a May poll by the Washington Post found that half of those surveyed in the capital said crime was either an extremely serious or very serious problem. Many people no longer report some crimes because they believe police will do nothing, or they are intimidated by their criminal neighbors. Wow, that's not good.
Now, this is all very important to us in New York because we're watching in D.C. a reenactment, a rehearsal really, a preview of what's going to happen in New York City if Mandami wins.
Oh, Mandami.
Because he's leading in the polls, and the lead is held up. He's at about 40, and Cuomo is at about 26. Sliwa's at about 20. Adams is about 13.
So where was Cuomo again? Tell me. What was that?
The top lead is Mandami 40, Cuomo 26, Sliwa 20. And Adams 13. Right. So it's looking increasingly like Mandami may win.
We need Curtis.
I want to talk about the impact of that. First of all, we should realize that the state government has tremendous power over the New York City mayoralty. The governor of the state can remove the mayor for any reason that she wants. And under Franklin D. Roosevelt, the mayor, Jimmy Walker, was removed by the governor.
And you said she wants, hopefully it's Stefanik as the governor.
Yeah.
So
really,
or Lawler.
So really the key question is going to be, will Hochul get reelected?
Oh, God.
And if she gets reelected,
then we're screwed.
Will she stand by Mamdani? And I think that it really makes the ticket, Hochul and Mamdani, the leading ticket in New York State.
To destroy New York City.
Yeah. But if we defeat Hochul and we elect Stefanik or Lawler, who are the two Republicans, most likely Stefanik, it really means that the mayoralty of New York will be decided not this year's municipal elections, but in next year's gubernatorial election.
So that's a year for them to really, for him, Mamdani, to screw up New York like he probably will.
Now, what's going to happen is this. In addition to the idea of a state takeover of New York and ousting Mamdani, New York City lives off borrowed money, and it has huge needs for capital from investors. And what's going to happen is the bondholders are going to say, the hell with you. We are not lending New York any more money.
But wait, bondholders of New York and federal, right? Both?
Well, all over the country.
Right.
But they hold New York City bonds.
Right.
And they're going to say, I'm not going to lend more money to New York City as long as you're letting people ride subways and buses for free, as long as you're defunding the police,
open up grocery stores,
as long as you're screwing up housing by not allowing rent increases.
Right.
We're not going to be idiots and invest money in an economy that runs like that. So, look, if Mamdani is elected, the first thing that's going to happen is that the bondholders are going to say, we're not lending you any more money. And beyond the issue of who runs the city, who runs the state, they won't be able to borrow money. They won't be able to get money.
Wow.
It'll go back to the fiscal crisis of 1975, when the bondholders forced Governor Hugh Carey to set up the Municipal Assistance Corporation called MAC.
Was
Big
that
Mac.
Jimmy Carter? It was 76 was Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, and that took over city finances. And it took the power away from the city government. And I think that's what's going to happen if Mamdani wins.
Who was the mayor of 75? Right before
Koch.
Koch, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the beauty here is that, well, first Hugh Carey, but then Koch.
Right.
And I think that you have two issues that are going to save New York if Mamdani wins. One is a takeover by New York State, and the other is a bondholder revolt that says we're not lending these guys more money. And if that happens, it's going to force a federal takeover of New York. Because
that's a horrible thing to happen.
Because they won't be able to support themselves as long as this idiot is mayor.
How do we get people to understand? People on the left, our people are listening, they get it. They're like, oh my God. How do we get people on the left to see this or understand this or even think that it may happen?
But I don't know. But I think that the important thing for us to understand is that the mayor's race is merely the first stage. The second stage is the power of the governor and who wins the governorship. And the second stage is what happens to the bondholders and how can New York borrow money.
We got 2 minutes. Let's get Sandra. Hi, Sandra. How are you?
Hello, Doug. Hello, Dick. Hello,
Hi,
Dick.
Sandra.
Hello, Doug. I was going to ask about Mamdani, but now I heard what you said on him, so I'm scared. But I wanted to say today, Jack Ciattarelli is our best shot in bringing Trump-style leadership back to New Jersey.
Yep.
He'll end the sanctuary policies. He'll respect our police. He'll cut taxes. He'll stand up for the working families, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I want to say is, last night, I was so impressed, and I got many calls. Lara Trump spent so much time interviewing this man. He is so presidential. He's been in Jersey all his life. He's
interviewing Ciattarelli.
Yes, Jack Ciattarelli. So what I want to say is, please have your audience look him up, see that interview with Larry Trump. You know, as Kudlow says, if you don't know how to find it, ask your 9-year-old to find it for you. He says
That's right.
every week. So
well,
this is a must-see interview.
We're going to ask Jack on the show.
Citarella to come on.
We'll get him on the show, Sandra.
Yes, please, because he needs to win, and he deserves to win.
Listen, the same way you say Citarelli is presidential, and he'll get a feel for the other guy that you like. I think Curtis will have a strong, if he be elected, which would be beautiful, he'll be very strong. He'll be, he'll have that feel of Rudy Giuliani. No one could be Rudy, but Curtis could be a strong guy as mayor for New York.
Yeah, and we need him to win, and we need to stop Mamdani.
I don't know how.
But I want people to understand what's going to happen if Mamdani is elected.
Yes.
First of all, New York will lose its power to govern. It'll be taken away from us because the bondholders will insist on it. And secondly, the governor, if it's Stefanik or if it's Lawler, will probably intervene and remove the mayor from power.
Just the idea that we would have to do that before he's even elected.
Yeah.
You have to think about that.
If you look at Washington, D.C., and you see Trump's takeover, that's what he's preparing for New York. That's what's going to happen if Mamdani wins. Trump is going to take it over and is going to run New York directly, and he'll have to because the bondholders will insist on it.
And when we get back, we're going to talk more about the great President Trump.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. If you ask anybody who understands the future, they will say that the big thing in the future is going to be AI, artificial intelligence. And the country that dominates that is going to dominate the world. And we have two major chip makers in the United States, NVIDIA and AMD,
And we're going to get 15% of their revenue. This is great. Two major chip makers in the U.S., as Dick just said, NVIDIA and AMD, have struck an unusual agreement to provide the federal government some of their revenue from chip sales of China. Two firms have agreed to share 15%. Wow. 15% of the revenue generated from selling advanced artificial intelligence chips to China in order to secure export licenses after a months-long pause, a U.S. official confirmed. NVIDIA, it's hard to say, NVIDIA dominates the market for GPUs in the chips powering the AI boom, fueling the company's rapid growth over the past few years. Last month, it became the first company in the world to reach a market capitalization of $4 trillion. One more time, $4 trillion with a T. Bucks. Under agreement, NVIDIA will share 15% of its revenue from H20 chip sales to China, while AMD will share the same portion of its M1308, might be MI308 chip sales. That's unbelievable.
This is so crucial because
15% of $4 trillion.
Yeah, this is so crucial because it really means that it's a big step for the U.S. to win the AI race and for it to be the dominant country in the world on artificial intelligence. And
because they wanted to secure the export licenses, so they already see Trump with the tariffs and everything he's doing.
Yep.
So they said, "Listen, we're gonna throw you a little money on the side there, pal."
Now, while this is going on, there are huge increases in revenues to the United States because of Trump's tariffs. The new Trump tariffs have tripled revenues. This isn't an estimate. This is actual cash that we've gotten. We got $7 billion in July and $25 billion in August.
Wow.
That we actually got, which is huge, obviously. it means that Trump is totally changing the whole dynamics of the U.S. budget situation. In August, the Trump administration finalized a new set of reciprocal tariff rates, generally ranging from 10 to 41%. Assuming they remain in place, these and a variety of previously implemented tariffs, including a 10% baseline reciprocal tariff, and the recently announced trade agreements, are likely to generate further revenue. Monthly tariff revenue has more than tripled from $7 billion to $25 billion, and will generate $1.3 trillion in government revenues by the end of Trump's term.
Wow, this T is popping up all over the place.
And $2.8 trillion
again.
by 2035.
Wow.
So Trump has completely revolutionized the whole world by insisting that it pay access to go to American markets. That if countries want to be able to sell to the United States, which is the world's largest market, we have the three largest retailers in the U.S., Costco, Amazon, and one other, I forget.
Right.
And we dominate the world retail markets. And what Trump is basically telling other countries is if you want to sell your products in the United States, you're going to have to pay increased tariffs as the price of admission. Think of you going into an amusement park, and you can take each of the rides, you can have each of the games, but to get into the park, you need to pay an admission.
You got to grease somebody's palm.
And that's what the Trump tariffs are, an admission to get into the park.
He's such a New Yorker.
And it's so changing the whole dynamic of American budgeting and of international trade. It's unbelievable.
But you know what it is? It's working. It's not like, he's bluffing and things could happen, could not. It's working across the board with everyone. Everyone knows, listen, if I don't, play ball with this guy, if I don't play straight, I'm going to get hit with a tariff. I'm going to get hit with something.
Yep.
No military stuff. He doesn't threaten anyone. It's just all about money.
Yep.
It's beautiful how he deals with this kind of stuff.
Now, there's also major development in the 2020 election scandal and the need to get honest elections. There's been a major decision by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upholding a Texas law that requires mail-in voters to identify via state ID number or the last four digits of their Social Security number. So this totally changes the playing field for mail-in voting.
It's going to be a lot harder to
Impossible
cheat.
to cheat.
Impossible, pretty much, right.
And this is something that Trump is pushing legislatively, but he's now gotten the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals to uphold the Texas law that requires this. And if this spreads nationally, as I'm sure it will, and if it's upheld by the Supreme Court, that it obviously will be, it means that this curse of mail-in voting and the curse of people who aren't really voters,
and it really is a curse,
is ending.
Right.
And when you combine the decrease in the number of illegal immigrants in the United States and the inability to vote unless you have a Social Security number.
The inability to cheat. Yeah.
You're talking about a total revolution in American politics.
I mean, look what he's getting done. And then you look at his first term, what they tried to do with him with Russia, and all the other stuff, how much he would have had done then. It's amazing. Yeah. And Trump was right again with inflation slowing down. Food inflation especially down. In July, food at home, food at home down 0.1%, gas down 2.2%, electricity down 0.1%. It's just, once again,
That's
Trump
right.
was right again.
Amazing. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a game-changing missile that could protect Taiwan and fundamentally change the whole dynamic going on in Asia.
Once again.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Did you see that when Trump made progress in Ukraine, and it looked and he settled that he's settling that war, and he settled the war in Azerbaijan and the war in Cambodia and the war in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and he's settling the war in Gaza, bringing all these peace agreements. None other than Hillary Rodham Clinton said that if he ended the war in Ukraine without losing Ukrainian territory, she would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, listen. First of all, she started a new group. It's called the Kisbet Group, right? And she's the president. She teaches everyone Kisbet. And I think it's spelled Kisbutt. Oh, Kisbutt. The Kisbutt Group. She's kissing butt because she knows she's going to jail. Oh, go on.
Yeah. Well, Hillary
she's
is
a horrible person.
If you want to understand what's going on, just look at Hillary's efforts to cover hers and kiss somebody else's. She's coming on to Trump and hoping that Trump will shield her and stop her from being indicted in the Russia scandal.
Trump says, oh, maybe I'll start to like her again. I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's going to string her along.
And as Trump gets closer in the investigation of the Russia scandal, Hillary really is at risk. Obama's not, because of the court decision protecting the president, saying that an incumbent president can't be prosecuted for something that went on during his administration.
Yes, but I'm sure they're going to find things after.
But
after Trump was elected, Obama was still working the system.
Maybe, but it certainly means that Hillary is in danger.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's got nothing protecting her.
Right.
So what she's doing now is Kisbutt. Kisbutt.
Yeah, but we call it
Kisbutt.
Oh, yeah. Please join Kisbutt or send money to Kisbutt.
Kissing butt. Yeah. It's so
butt kiss him. And
so,
I got to think of a brown nose.
It's so
Mrs. Brown.
It's so predictable.
Mrs. Brown knows what's going on. That's horrible. Hillary, she's such a phony in so many ways. You know, you look at it when she's walking on stage and she would wave to someone and those eyes open up high with her mouth. You go, oh my God, how phony. That's the difference. When you see Trump, you always see the real guy. When he sees someone in the audience, you know, at a rally, one time he saw a woman holding a baby, and he kept saying, look how beautiful that baby must have been gorgeous, right? Yeah. Like me when I saw a baby yesterday. I'm looking, you know, we were at wherever we were, right? And you could see he meant it. Look at that baby. And then he's telling this little speech and thing, and again he goes, that baby really is beautiful. Like minutes later, that baby really is beautiful. That's Trump. She is just totally, she's the one that holds the baby up when she's getting shot at.
Yeah, right. For target practice. Let's go to Dennis in Breezy Point.
Hey, Dennis.
Hey, fellas, how are you today?
Good.
You have a great show. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good.
I just wanted to say that, sorry, that you're right on the mark with the comments about the situation in New York City regarding the takeover by the government, because it would be a disaster if the bondholders stopped funding the operations.
Yeah. We have to realize that choosing the governor of New York is probably going to be more important than choosing the mayor of New York.
If Mandami becomes mayor, yeah.
because we can rely, I hope, on Lawler or Stefanik to curb Mandami's powers and ultimately remove him. And he won't have any choice because the bondholders won't go ahead and pay for it.
So anyway, you talk about game changing with the with missiles. Oh, by the way, thank you, Dennis. A frantic arms race between the U.S. and China is underway in the Pacific, while the fate of Taiwan hangs in the balance. Washington and its allies are trying to stay ahead of Chinese capabilities, shaking Beijing off balance as it considers whether it can launch a successful invasion of Taiwan. At the heart of the U.S. strategy is a new technology that has the ability to inflict devastating losses on the Chinese Navy. Precision strike missiles, they call it PRISM. The missiles have just been tested in Australia, where they struck targets more than 190 miles away, marking the first time the Lockheed Martin manufactured weapon has been used by a U.S. ally. It can be fired by either, this is HIMARS or MLRS, High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, and the MLRS is Multiple Launch Rocket System. It could be fired from that missile launches that were recently used by Ukraine to launch counter-offensives on invading Russian forces and strike deep inside enemy territory, blunting Moscow's advances. To date, those launches have been used with Army tactical missile systems, which have been in service for more than 3 decades with a top range of 190 miles. But PRISM, which is a precision strike missile, reportedly have a range of more than 300 miles, with the potential for this to improve in future variants. And at the recent test flight in Australia, the missile reached speeds of 4,000 kilometers per mile, beating the Army tactical missile system by 300 miles per hour. But I'd say these PRISMs have the potential for dramatically increasing the risk factor for Chinese fleet. So that's substantial. Chinese military will be only too aware of the damage Ukraine has managed to inflict on Russia using these high-mobility artillery rocket systems, since they were first provided by the U.S. in June of 22, and will be warily eyeing the upgraded precision missiles. Taiwan already has these 11 HIMARS, the high-mobility artilleries, from previous arms sales with the U.S., and it's expected to receive more in 26. Mr. Bandow said the PRISMs will have inflicted an important psychological blow on China without any shots even being fired, and could convince its leadership to delay its imperial ambitions. That's
once again, Trump is winning a war by preventing it.
Yes, without even doing anything.
Yeah, and scaring the hell out of the Chinese in the process.
Wow.
And it is so great to read that and to hear that.
It's almost like in the White House, he's going, psych! People yell, psych! It really is amazing. And Vance is doing pretty good, too. He's got a wide lead.
Yeah, but let's get to that in a second. Uh-huh. The amazing thing here is that Trump is developing a strategy to defend Taiwan against China, and is developing a military capability to stop China from invading. And that's probably, if there's one place that the U.S. is vulnerable, it's Taiwan. And with this missile, it's incredible. It reminds me very much of the fact that the U.S. always used the Middle East to test out its new military equipment and figure out how to win a war in the future. And now we're seeing the same thing happening in the China Straits. You were saying about Vance?
Yeah, Vice President Vance has a wide lead over potential contenders for 28 Republican presidential nomination.
Remember, Trump can't run again.
He can't?
So the issue now is who the Republicans will nominate in 2028.
You know who I like. But anyway, the latest Rasmussen report's National Telephone and Online Survey finds that if the Republican primaries were held today, 35% of the likely Republican primary voters would vote for Vance, with Florida Governor DeSantis and Secretary of State Marco Rubio tied for second place at 10% each. I like Rubio. I like Bondi. I like DeSantis, but you don't think DeSantis? Tell me about it. I think
Trump will not permit DeSantis to win.
Just because of everything that...
Yeah, he hates him.
Yeah, he hates
him. And he hates him because he feels...
Call him
the sanctimonious. Well, but the background here is that DeSantis was losing the governor's race in Florida, was not going to be elected governor. And Trump, he begged Trump to endorse him. Trump did, and then DeSantis turned on him and ran against him for president. Right. And I don't think Trump, you don't do that to Donald Trump and live to tell about it.
But he is, you know, he wants this nation to be beautiful and America great again, so he might. I mean, I remember when Trump at Mar-a-Lago said to me, I'm going to call him sanctimonious. And I said, seriously, you're going to do that? You know, I even said to him, I go, you know, the people in Florida love this guy. You're going to lose him. He goes, nah, I won't. Don't worry about it. Like, the way he said it, you know, he's a piss of that guy. Gotta love him.
I think, though, that the real story for 2028 is that I think that Trump is going to support Donald Trump Jr. for president in 2028.
Did you talk to him yet about that?
No.
I know you were going to.
No, I decided not to.
Well, now he knows.
and I think that it's very possible that he will support Trump Jr. and that Vance and Rubio are going to have to live with that.
But I got to say this. You know, I've been thinking about it because we talk about this a lot, right? And I know Eric kind of well. Donald, I shook his hand a bunch of times, but I don't know him that well. But I have a feeling these guys might be a little tired of this and knowing what he's going to go through with the presidency, what his father went through. No. He might just say, screw this.
No.
You think he's a ballsy guy.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think that their father's success as president is going to egg them on.
You think?
And make this very possible. And I think you heard this here first. The big fight in 28 will be Vance against Trump for president. Donald Trump Jr. against Vance.
That sounds pretty cool. I think you just want that to happen.
No, I don't. But it's
so
going to be.
So you can put out all your stuff.
I'll bet that's going to be the fight.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool. I have a feeling he's going to just say, I don't need that. I don't know. We're going to find out, right?
Gavin Newsom is getting himself into a huge box because once Texas announced it's going to reapportion in the middle of the census and that Abbott is going to squeeze 5 more Republican seats out of Texas, California's Newsom said, I'm going to do the same thing in California. I'm going to offset the gains that you're planning to make in Texas.
He's a Newsom.
But the problem is that California has implemented years ago an independent redistricting commission, and it's very popular.
What does that mean?
That is a commission that's not political, not appointed by the governor or the legislature, and independently draws congressional lines.
And you believe that California did that?
They did that.
Wow.
It's now the law. And it's very popular in California. And when a survey was last week said that 36% of California voters want to return the authority to the legislature, but 64% want the independent commission to make these decisions. Now, if Newsom is going to try to gerrymander these lines to try to squeeze out more Democratic congressmen because of Texas,
right.
He's going to have to go to the voters in a referendum and ask them to override their districting commission. And I think he's going to lose that.
What is his term anyway, this guy? What is the term limit on him, governorship?
I don't know.
He could run again?
I don't know.
I don't know, okay.
But he's got himself now in a tough situation. And I think it's very likely that he'll lose that. And one of the big players in this is going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has stepped up and supported the independent commission. That was one of his main achievements as governor.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
And he's defending it, and he's attacking Newsom for wanting to get rid of it. And I think that Schwarzenegger will inject himself back into state politics by pushing that. And I think that he's got a 2-to-1 edge going into it. And the Democrats are going to try and say, well, this will just give Trump control of the House of Representatives. But I think Schwarzenegger comes back and he says, this is the device to stop the political bosses from controlling our congressional delegation and picking out who they want. And
I I don't know much about Schwarzenegger. I remember when he first was governor, I liked him. Then he did some stuff that I didn't like, and I haven't followed him now, so I don't really know what his feeling is, his mindset.
Now he'll come back with this, and I think he's got the voters on the side. I think that the distrust of the legislature and the dislike of the politicians fixing it with the reapportionment is such that Newsom now is going to oppose that at the risk of his own butt. And Schwarzenegger is going to say, okay, this may help you get an extra seat or two in Congress for the Democrats, but what's this going to do in California? It's going to restore the power of the political bosses. It's going to end our democracy. And don't forget that in California, under the redistricting, it's not just that the commission determines the lines. It's that the top two candidates run off against each other, regardless of party. So in a lot of these districts, you have two Democrats competing for a congressional seat, or two Republicans, but usually two Democrats. And the Democrats want to end that because they want to be able to choose a candidate. And I think that this really can stop that. So I think that Newsom is running into a wall here.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll talk about the new documents that prove that the absolute proof that Clapper and Comey sabotaged Trump's 2016 campaign, and that's why Hillary is doing kiss butt.
So we could clap.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris Show with Doug DePiro. Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. President Trump said declassified documents now show absolute proof of guilt that former Director of National Intelligence James R. Clapper and former FBI Director James B. Comey conspired to sabotage his 2016 campaign. The president called the newly revealed documents incredible evidence of wrongdoing. Trump went on to say they're sick people and they're criminals and should be taken care of. We'll see what happens, but Clapper and Comey and that whole group of criminals, they're criminals.
Well, hold on, Dick. And, I said early on, a couple of weeks ago or more, yeah, they're going to get Obama too. And Dick said, no. First you go after, Comey and Brennan or Clapper. You go after them first. And then let them rat out Obama.
Yeah.
And General Flynn, I talked to him last week or 2 weeks ago, and he agreed with that. I told him, Dick is saying it.
But you're missing this blonde-haired lady in between.
Oh, the kiss butt lady?
Yeah. And after Comey and Clapper implicate Obama, they can implicate Hillary. And she doesn't have the protection of the Supreme Court decision.
Well, wouldn't Steele and, you got Steele and Comey to implement and to get Hillary, right? Because they're the two with the hoax, with the
and Clapper, yeah.
Who's dealing with the dossier? It was Steele dossier, Comey, Brennan.
Brennan, yeah.
Brennan, right. They're going to pull them down. They're going to love this.
They're
going to eat their own is what they're going to do.
They did the fake Russia witch hunt that lasted for 2 years, and I was totally exonerated. It was a whole scheme to try and demean Trump so that I couldn't win an election.
Right.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard this week declassified documents showing a December 22nd, 2016, after Trump was first elected, email exchange between Clapper and then Director of National Security Mike Rogers discussing a joint project related to Russian attribution and intent for the DNC-DCC hacks. So they hatched this plot to create the narrative that Trump was working with Putin.
And Clapper was resolute about sticking to the narrative that Russia meddled in the 2016 presidential election. Unbelievable.
In the latest trove of declassified documents, it shed new light on how Clapper and other Obama administration officials manipulated intelligence about Trump's links to Moscow.
But we don't want this to take away from Hillary's cleaning the server and the emails, the 32,000 emails either.
Yeah, but the reason she did all of that was to hide what she's done at the Clinton Foundation,
right? So,
which was basically a bribery scheme, and the idea was that you send Bill all over the world giving speeches, and they get paid millions of dollars for that. And in return, they'll do special favors for them.
Right.
And you want to hide those, and she'll do that by not putting it out of the government email.
You think they're going to
get around instead doing her own private server, and that this was her effort to hide this so she could get away with it. And you're damn right they're going to find it.
Right, because they're there.
And
they're
Hillary,
in the cloud or wherever you call it.
I think people ask, will Obama go to jail? I don't think so. I think the Supreme Court will protect that, but I think Hillary really may go to jail.
I do believe that there's got to be emails or talk with Obama after the 20th of January.
Yeah, well, maybe.
After Trump was inaugurated. I'm sure Obama was still talking to people. There's something there.
Maybe, but really Hillary is in the crosshairs here.
No, okay, let's get to Putin now.
Good.
This is beautiful. And I think he said this to show how weak Biden was. And, you know, he's kissing a little butt, too.
It was kiss butt.
Yeah, another kiss butt. Hillary did call him before his meeting with Trump, and she got him involved with the kiss butt group. So today when President Trump is saying that, this is Putin talking, today when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, that there would be no war. I'm quite sure that if it would indeed be so, I can confirm that. Putin said basically if
Trump was right, I never would have invaded if he were president.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that he said that. And listen, he doesn't have to kiss butt. He doesn't have to do anything. He just has to negotiate this thing with.
Oh, come on. He was kissing butt.
Yeah, he was totally. I'm saying he doesn't have to.
And he knew that Trump would love that.
Right.
And he
absolutely was kissing, but I'm saying he didn't have to. But first of all, just watching him when those planes flew over, the bomber and the F-35s, he turned to Trump, and there was no sound, and it looked like he just said, "Wow, that was so cool." That's what I got. That was like me seeing a bunch of cool cars coming by, or a cool Harley Davidson, and go, "Wow!" You could see the face. He was like, "Wow, that was cool." Gotta love Trump for this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff.
Trump has now ended collective bargaining rights for top unions in the government. A new report from the Office of Personnel Management estimates that Donald Trump's efforts to cut government waste and federal redundancies will result in an estimated 300,000 federal workers being laid off by the end of the year. And 80% of the workforce stems from personnel voluntarily accepting buyouts and 20% direct layoffs. Trump says his goal is a 12.5% reduction in the federal workforce, and he's offered 2 rounds of buyouts so far. An initial round in February led to 75,000 federal employees accepting the offer, and a second round was offered in April. Democratic-backed legal challenges to the buyouts and layoffs have been unsuccessful. Earlier this year, Massachusetts U.S. District Court Judge George O'Toole ruled against unions seeking to block the buyouts, saying they lack standing in the legal challenges. Additionally, Judge O'Toole determined his court lacked jurisdiction even to hear the matter. Meanwhile, in July, jobs data showed that between January and May, the total number of government jobs in the Washington, D.C. area had been slashed by 22,000. The layoffs appear to have been substantially accelerated after the Supreme Court lifted a lower court order earlier last year blocking the Trump administration from cutting the workforce across 19 federal departments and agencies. So all the stuff that Doge was trying to do is actually working, and the court has now allowed it to go ahead. And these layoffs are a very important part of Trump's ability to sell the big, beautiful bill and get the tax cuts adopted. But again, that's basically in the rearview mirror. In the windshield, we have the enormous development, of the new revenues we're getting from the tariffs and from the chip sales.
That's unbelievable. 14 trillion. Wait, was it
4 trillion.
4 trillion, and we're going to get 15%
of that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that really is puts all of that into perspective. And I think
listen,
it's very important.
Let's get Linda in Long Island. Who was right, me or Dick, about Hillary? Hi, Linda.
Hi, I love you guys. I can't believe it. After all this time, I cannot believe it. I kept saying a long time ago, many people said, Hillary, she was using a race card. She was collecting all that money for Haiti. She said all that money is going to Haiti. And she explained it. 1 million for me, a penny for you. 1 million for me, a penny for you.
Like Abbott and Costello.
She was very fair, right? And the biggest phony that ever lived. I don't understand. They had, conservatives, Republicans. Why didn't anybody? How would I know about it? We all knew about it. Why didn't anybody go after her?
Because it was always Democratic administration, so she was shielded.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody really talked about it, really did anything. In fact, so they went after Trump instead.
Yeah,
and from what she started, it lead one thing to the other. People got killed in the middle of the whole thing, and Trump was almost killed because of her garbage.
What do you think about her new group she's starting, the Kisbet? The Kiss Butt.
I'm gonna join it.
Just to learn about it. And she's the.
I think we should join.
Yeah, she's the matriarch of that.
One of my heroes in the world is a guy named John Solomon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who is an investigative journalist, and he's uncovered a smoking gun email from Obama's Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates, explicitly ordering FBI agents to shut down a criminal probe into the Clinton Foundation. And when we come back, we'll talk about that. That's why the Kiss Butt is happening.
I thought we had another 4 minutes there, Rick. 36.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. So, investigative journalist John Solomon has uncovered a smoking gun email from Obama's Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates, explicitly ordering FBI agents to shut down a criminal corruption probe of the Clinton Foundation. To shut it down. Thanks to Judicial Watch, the American public was made aware of Hillary's private email server. Hillary conducted official business on a non-government server so she could hide her Clinton Foundation pay-to-play while she was head of the State Department. According to emails obtained by Judicial Watch, Hillary gave preferential treatment to Clinton Foundation donors while she was Secretary of State.
Wow.
Hillary's use of private emails was one of the gravest modern offenses to government transparency. Now, according to John Solomon, the investigation quietly running in New York, Washington, and Little Rock was reported a fully predicated criminal case examining whether Hillary, as Secretary of State, ran a pay-to-play influence scheme.
Wow, and she did.
According to Solomon, FBI agents had reason to believe foreign nationals and other deep-pocketed donors bought access and favors from the State Department in exchange for massive contributions to the Clinton Foundation, all while the Obama DOJ looked the other way. At the time, then FBI Director Andrew McCabe, whose wife took campaign cash from a Clinton ally, while she personally attended the meeting to solicit the funds, allegedly locked down the investigation and ordered that no action be taken without his approval. 4 separate U.S. attorney offices under Obama were approached by FBI agents for help with subpoenas, grand juries, and evidence gathering, and 3 of the 4 were refused outright. The most damning, however, according to Solomon, is a document uncovered by the new FBI Director Kash Patel. In it, Deputy AG Sally Yates directly instructs the FBI to, quote, shut it down, unquote, the Clinton Foundation investigation, effectively granting the Clintons immunity from further scrutiny during the 2016 election cycle. According to Solomon, several prosecutors have now stepped forward and are willing to cooperate with Congress and Trump-aligned investigators.
Wow.
But the Post reportedly has more explosive emails from Obama-era officials, which he intends to turn over to Patel, has more explosive emails that he plans to turn over. So this is a major development because we're all watching the Russia scandal. And it's very clear now that Obama and Hillary cooked this up and then got the FBI to buy it and got the American media to buy it. But while that's going on, the other big scandal was the Clinton Foundation. When Hillary became Secretary of State, she saw this enormous opportunity for bribery and for corruption.
Wow.
And she wanted Bill to take advantage of it. When in my association with the Clintons for decades, it was always a subtext in their theme that Hillary had given up this great opportunity to make money, to go to Arkansas to be a public interest lawyer.
Oh, so now she feels entitled to doing this?
And that she's entitled to try to make some money back.
Let me ask you this question.
And the whole idea here was that Bill would go around giving speeches, and they set up a company under Doug Band. I forget the name of the company, that went around the world looking for people who needed favors from the federal government.
It wasn't the Clinton Foundation? It was a different
No, a separate entity. Mm-hmm. And their job was to go around find foreign leaders that were willing to pay through the nose for favors from the U.S. government.
And Clinton would do a speech.
And then the Clinton Foundation would arrange a speech
from the
for Clinton there. From Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And in return, the Clinton Foundation would get money.
In the pocket.
But
here's what I want to ask you. First of all, and I'm not sure about this, did Biden pardon her also? He pardoned everyone, right? Now, what is that pardon going to do? Did he pardon Comey or Brennan, any of those guys? I just don't know. And I want to know if that's going to...
We got to check that.
Right, we got to check that because I want to see if that's going to have anything to do with what's going on now with...
We got to check that. Right. That's a very good point. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. You're right, Doug.
We talked about it a while back.
You're right.
We got to see who we pardoned.
But I've always suspected this scheme that the Clinton Foundation was basically a money-making operation oriented around Hillary's State Department, and that the private email server was to cover this up.
Right.
See, these weren't simple bribes. This wasn't a question of, here's $10,000. This was a question of, favor my contract, give me this huge amount of work, give me this benefit, and in return, I want to have a jobs fair in your country to encourage people to move there.
Right.
And they were very complicated, layered favors. And Hillary could not expose those on a government email server because she'd get clobbered with that. And so the result was that they would do it routed through a private email server, and that cost her the presidency.
But you know what? It wasn't done well. They weren't very good at hiding this stuff. You know, Hillary with the emails and all the things she's done with the Clinton Foundation and what you were just talking about. I mean, she's not a good criminal. She's a big criminal, I think. Crooked Hillary. I love that. She's not good at it, though. You know what I mean? Because it seems like it was very easy for Bondi and Patel and all these guys to look into her and find this stuff. You know, she's not good at hiding.
Well, now it's easy. But they needed control of federal government to do that.
Right.
And
she lost.
Yeah, and Trump wasn't willing to do that in his first term.
If they didn't do this Russia, impeach, Trump probably would have forgot about this. As a matter of fact, he told us, and I remember this conversation, I think I said it or you said it, I think I said it to him. I go, you're going to go? He goes, listen, I'm not going to go after anyone, right? This is before they went after him.
Right.
With everything, right? He goes, no. But, if the DOJ, does this, they're fine. I don't care. But now he's probably, after New York and LaShyster James and all this other stuff.
Right.
He probably says, screw this. That's it.
I think you're
game
right.
on.
I think you're right. And we have to keep these scandals separate. There's the Russia scandal, where Obama worked with Brennan and Comey to phony up the scandal to try to get Trump thrown out of office. And then there's the Clinton Foundation scandal, where Hillary and Bill went around the world getting bribes for Bill to give speeches.
When she was Secretary of State.
When she was Secretary of State. That's right. And to cover it up, she used a private email server.
And that's illegal. Illegal or just...
Illegal.
Illegal.
But particularly illegal if that was her motive. And nobody understood that this is what she was doing.
And is that security of the United States using a different server type of thing? It falls under that type of...
But nobody understood that that's what was happening. But I did. And I was talking about this a lot. And everybody was wondering why Hillary had her own email server. And I said, it's got nothing to do with anything. It's got only to do with her ability to launder money through the Clinton Foundation. And I'm very proud of that. I was the only one who really draw that conclusion.
Well, you're Dick Morris. Listen, changing the world one Dick Morris at a time.
Yeah, well.
What do we got next here?
The Nonpartisan Tax Foundation has estimated that the average American, that means you, is going to save between $2,500 and $5,000 in federal tax savings as a result of the tax cuts Trump has already passed in the big, beautiful bill. And so everybody gets $2,500 to $5,000 extra in tax cut. You're going to be seeing that when you do your taxes in April. The One Beautiful Bill Act, signed into law by July, makes the most significant legislative changes to federal tax policy since Trump's 2017 tax cut. Notably, the Big Beautiful Bill makes permanent the individual tax changes put in place by Trump, which avoids a big tax cut, and provides additional tax cut to individuals and increases on top of the 2016 extensions, including new deductions for tips and overtime income, an expanded child care tax credit, and the permanence for 100% bonus depreciation and domestic research and development expensing.
That tips thing is signed in already, right? Isn't it signed into law?
Yeah.
Right, okay, because a lot of people don't know about it. I talked to
it is.
bartenders and different
And you're
people.
going to start declaring it on your taxes when you fill them out in April.
By the way, we were at Trump Doral this weekend. It was great. Wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, so continue. We'll talk about Trump Doral if we have time.
So
the visual to this thing, the tax changes.
To visualize the tax changes, the Tax Foundation estimated that the overall change in taxes paid per individual under the Big Beautiful Bill relative to prior tax laws is huge. They estimate that the Big Beautiful Bill will reduce federal taxes, an average individual taxpayer of between $5,000 in Wyoming and Washington and Massachusetts, and the low would be Virginia and Mississippi at $2,000 each.
$2,500.
But those are huge changes, and
people are going to feel this in their pocket.
Well, I think I think the economy will feel it, but I think that people are in for a shock when they do their taxes for this year, and they find the tip overtime is counted, the overtime stuff is counted, the tax cuts from before are factored in. And it's going to be kind of amazing what's going to happen. Trump is underappreciated for these tax cuts. And I think that when people actually start paying it or not paying it, I think that it'll be a very important change.
You know, walking, this is where this comes in, going to Doral. And we've been there quite a few times. What a beautiful place. I was walking around and thinking about what you just talked about just now, that topic. And Trump, he's not just this guy that's president, and he has people say, listen, you should cut taxes on tips, and you should do this, and blah, 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 blah. Now, when he builds that building, and he's got workers, and he says, listen, put the wall over there, and I want the door over there, and make sure the wall doesn't crack on the top, and the I-beam is like this, blah, blah, blah. I could see it. He also goes, a woman told me yesterday that he was there last month or a couple of months ago, I don't know. And he walks around, and Miguel, who's a great manager, said to me, you know, I was walking around with him, I don't know if it was recent, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. He goes, he gave me $300. He says, go to the kitchen and give the kitchen guys, they don't get the tips, you know what I mean, they're washing. Yeah. And so he sees the workers, because he's got probably hundreds of thousands of workers, right? And he sees that. So, and he thinks about it. It's not like he's got some political guy saying, listen, cut taxes is great for political whatever, right? He's like, no, I'm going to do this because the people that work for me and that are great people need it done. You know, yep. The guy is just, you know, he's down to earth. As much as he's this rich dude, he knows what's going on in the world. So you want to get one of these people?
Yeah.
John from Long Island. Hey, John from
Hi,
Long
John.
Island.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
So my thought was, what if we got Rudy Giuliani to help Curtis's campaign? I think you'd bring out some
without a doubt.
You'd definitely energize both parties. Get some independents and Democrats even. What do you think about that?
I think Rudy could be decisive in the election if he chose to get involved. I think that there's a certain feeling that he left New York in great shape and that Mamdani is going to screw it up. And I think Rudy Giuliani takes that very personally, and I think I would look for Giuliani to become very involved. But I think that he's right for having held back so far.
Right.
Because it would be just part of the process.
And he needs to see it play out. But I think
starting in September and October, Rudy really needs to get involved in this.
Rudy was the best mayor ever in the history of New York City. He just worked. I was in New York. I had my apprenticeship in advertising as an illustrator when I was like 17 years old. And I would walk through Times Square, and there were peep shows and drugs. And I remember a guy with a big long coat in the summertime, and it was almost like in the movies. He goes, psst, psst, hey man, what do you need? What do I got? What do you got? What do you need? And he had like needles inside his coat and stuff. And Rudy came in, what was it, 80 or 81? And all of a sudden, Times Square had a Disney store. First it had porn shops and all kinds of horrible drugs. And in a couple of years, it was beautiful with Disney. The dichotomy of that. And I tell Rudy that every time I see him. I kind of remind him that. He was just so amazing what he did. And a lot of my Italian friends don't like him because what he did with a lot of that kind of stuff. But too bad. You play big, you fall big. So Rudy's the guy. I love him.
I want to just return to what I said earlier about Mamdani.
Mamdani. Yeah.
If he wins, and right now he's 14 points ahead.
Oh man.
And more importantly, the guy who's in second place, Cuomo, is a crook. And we can't possibly elect him.
And what he did with the COVID and the
women
nursing
and
homes,
all of that in nursing homes. But if Mamdani is elected, I think that we will make very important the governor election the next year in New York.
Absolutely.
Because we can't let this guy take over. And I think that the governor has the capacity to remove the mayor of the city of New York. Let me amplify that. In 1932, Franklin Roosevelt was the governor of New York, and he was running for president. And he was going to appear before the Democratic Convention and ask for the Democratic nomination. And back then, Tammany Hall, the Democratic organization in New York, was very powerful and very important and controlled about 15% of the delegates at the National Convention. And they came to FDR and they said, don't you remove Jimmy Walker. He gives us patronage, he gives us jobs, he gives us money, and we do not want you to remove him. And FDR really faced a real question. Is he going to risk his presidential nomination and risk Tammany voting against him and remove Walker? And it was a real close question. And Roosevelt came down and said, the hell with it, I'm going to take that risk.
Wow.
I'm going to remove Jimmy Walker. And he did. And I think that really sets up what we're looking at now with Mamdani and whether Lawler and...
was that the one and only time?
It's the only time a mayor has ever been removed by a governor.
From New York or all the whole...
Well, from New York, that I know of, yeah.
Anyway, we got to go to break. That's amazing. That is amazing. All right, we'll see you on the other side.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And nobody, no journalist has asked Hochul the key question, which is, do you support Mamdani or not?
Really?
And, well, they've asked her, but she's hedged. But the key question is, will you remove him if he wins? Will you take him out of office?
She's not going to answer that.
Well, she's going to say no. And then that should be the basis of Lawler's campaign, or of Stefanik's campaign, because we can't let this guy continue as mayor, be mayor. Now, I think a lot of this problem is going to be solved because the bond community, the investors in New York, are just not going to let this guy run roughshod over the city. And they'll say, if you defund the police and you make everything public, you have free grocery stores, you let people on the subways and the buses for free, we're not going to continue to lend New York money. And that credit squeeze is going to force the governor, whoever it is, to act against Mamdani.
Well, let me say this. Let's put it out there a lot, like you're doing right now, and maybe the voters will see that. You know what I mean? How do we get that out to the left?
Yeah.
They're not listening to our show. We got to get this out to the left.
Right.
I think if they see this, hear it, they're going to say, wow, what are we doing? They're going to say fake news or whatever, but it's coming from Dick Morris.
Let's go to Steve in Brooklyn.
Hey, Steve.
Yes. I loved what you were saying earlier about China and Xi Jinping being nervous, really frightened of Trump. Let me portray a bigger picture. Xi Jinping is a major adherent to the ancient book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Sure.
And in it, his basic theory is that the greatest warrior is the one that never has to fire an arrow or a spear or a sword, but wins by psychological warfare of the mind. Now, what they're really afraid of is that Trump, it turns out that to their horror, they've discovered that Trump is also an adherent to that very same theory, which we call peace through strength.
Right.
And the Chinese have exercised that against us through the fentanyl. What does that do? It kills off our young population that would serve in the military in 5 years and be opposed to them. And by collapsing our economy, or trying to do so, that would prevent us from having the financial strength to wage a war against China.
Yep.
Well, what Trump is now doing is what the Italians call al rovescio. They're turning it on them. And Xi Jinping and the top brass of the Chinese Communist Party are horrified by this because they realize that he is showing that he understands exactly their strategy, and he's countering it effectively. This is what's really going on in the world politics between U.S. now in this administration and Communist China. And that's the reason they are hesitating about going into Taiwan, because they realize that he has other means. When you mention these new missiles, when you mention the missiles that could counter it, that's what they're really afraid of, that he's unmanning Xi Jinping and the communist regime.
And while that's going on,
and
you have to realize how vulnerable China is. their economy is one half of their economy are subsistence farmers who basically make no money, live hand to mouth. They eat what they grow, and they're not part of the economy. Then you have another quarter of the Chinese economy that are state-owned enterprises, which are basically obsolete industries, factories that produce something nobody wants to buy. The Chinese have a saying. They say, "This year we'll build the bridge. Next year we'll build the river." and there's only a quarter of the economy which really is modern and competes in the world, the high-tech economy. And when you look at what story we reported earlier about the NVIDIA chips and the trade imbalance with China, you can see that China is very, very vulnerable. And basically, the Chinese leadership has to reassess its basic decision, which is to fight the United States and to stand up to Trump. And they're losing that fight. They're going to lose it big time. And I think they're very likely going to back down. I do not think Xi Jinping is going to stay in power for much longer. I think the Politburo there will realize that they have to cut their losses, that they can't fight the United States. And I think that they're going to withdraw. But we'll see.
I mean, and Trump is playing this game better than they can. Or better than they
Mike from St. James has a good question. Let's go to him.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Dick. In the New York City mayor election, will the Board of Electors be mailing out mail-in ballots?
I don't know the answer to that. I need to check it. But what I do know is that if they are not requiring the Social Security number on the ballot. And that's what Texas did. And that's what the court just affirmed. And what we need to do is to get...
You said they're not going to allow that.
Right. So and we need to get every jurisdiction in the country to require Social Security numbers on mailed-in ballots.
Right.
And we have a long way to go before we get that. But that's what's going to be important.
You know, Dick, This was a beautiful show. Thank you. And I want to just shout out to Darlene. She had a little problem this weekend, and we'd like some prayers for our friend Darlene. And it's an honor. It's an honor to be here, Dick Morris.
Well,
thank you very little.
Yeah, it's fun.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?